without people feeling safe, you're building on sand. Everyone has a story. No child enters adulthood unscarred. Corrective can take you to hell. Can make you
Yep.
feel everything that can be kryptonite before the relationship finds its cape. Sometimes the old relationship, people have to die to be reborn.
Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. I am so happy that you are joining me today for this very intense and fun and funny conversation with my friend John Kim, otherwise known as the Angry Therapist online. John is someone I've known for many, many years. He's a licensed psychotherapist, he's a speaker, he's the author of the best-selling books. I Used to Be a Miserable Fuck is one of his books, and Single on Purpose. He writes for Everyone Psychology Today. I'm sure you've seen him online. And this today, we are talking about his newest book called Love Hard on Purpose, Toss the Blueprints, Build Something Honest. He's so upfront about his feelings and about what's going on. He just started the interview like, you know what, I have a heavy heart today, but since I knew it was you, I thought it would be okay to do the interview anyway. I was like, okay, I'll take you with a heavy heart or a light heart, my friend. You come on in. So it was really an interview, but it was also a friendship conversation talking about the markers of good relationships, anxious-avoidant attachments, changing the paradigm, and really how to do the work. He also talks about what happened for he and his wife, Vanessa Bennett, who's also a close friend of mine. She's also been on the show. She also writes books. When their house in Altadena burned down in the California fires, and what happens in relationships when you face that kind of tragedy together. So I really enjoyed talking to John Kim. I hope that you guys enjoy this interview with my pal John as much as I enjoyed interviewing him.
Terry, I have a very heavy heart today, but when I realized that it was you, we were going to podcast instead of someone I didn't know, I was like, oh, this is going to be easy.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
happy to have you, John Kim, with a heavy heart or a light heart or any kind of heart because we always have the most amazing conversations. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. As long as there is heart. When there's no heart, that's when there's a problem. So the heart can be heavy,
Indeed.
the heart can be light, right? There just
That's
needs to
right.
be heart. Yeah.
Indeed. All right, so many things to talk about. And you've been on the show before, but I like to start it this way because I feel like if people are unfamiliar with your work or unfamiliar with you, that we all have reasons why we do what we do. So you
Hmm.
do something very particular, the topics that you write about, the way that you are in the world. Um, I was saying at the top when I was introducing you that I had found your work long before we became friends, and how I
Hmm.
was just struck by your individualism, the way that you presented yourself, your sort of your no fucks vibe in the best way that felt very permission giving to me
Hmm.
as a
Thank you.
therapist online. So anyway, I want to know from you in your life, if you were a Marvel movie character, like what would your origin story be of how you got here writing this particular book at this time in the timeline?
Oh, wow. What an interesting exercise. Sounds like I'm in film school again in the 90s in LA. Well, you
Totally.
come from casting, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Um, I would say uh, pushing a mail cart, trying to find a phone booth to find his cape, always looking for it from women, from love,
Mm.
um, not finding it, and being chopped at the knees. And then kind of, every superhero um, to a goes from death to rebirth. And so mine was a divorce at 35. Enter the Rocky story with the music, climbing upstairs, finding barbells, donuts, motorcycles, finding my cape on my own instead of
Mm.
from women. And I think that's the first time in my life. And it was very lonely. It wasn't easy. And I got to say, I tried to find women. No one was interested. So it wasn't like I had a choice. And it was important for me. It was important for the universe to cock block at that time. And
Mm.
because that's when I wrote Single on Purpose, right? And so
Yep.
for 5 years, I was single, forced to be with me. And then I kind of found the cape. It was a very small cape. I just turned my bib into a cape. I just flipped that shit the other way. And so that was the size of my cape. uh, and then I started dating again and documenting my story. And now I'm entering my second rebirth, which was our house in Altadena burning down. Now having a family, a wife, a 6-year-old. and shaving my head coming to Costa Rica, trading in the Harley Davidson for a golf cart, and
Yep.
now 53. Holy shit, 53 years
Yeah,
old.
man.
And also, I gotta say, learning about love almost like it's brand new. The reason I have a heavy heart is because Vanessa and I have been, going through some stuff, and we had a huge rupture a couple days ago, and we're both
Hmm.
kind of recovering, healing, um, and also learning. Fuck, man, like love hard. This thing, I
Hmm.
still don't know what it is. I still, love is this moving, breathing thing, and I know a lot of people come to me for advice about love, and I gotta say, I'm a student. I'm a student to love.
Mm. But here's the thing. We do come to you because the thing is you're so eloquent in sharing your experiences that it makes you've created like a path where we're like, okay, so it can look like that. There's a lot of hope in your rebirths and what you've done.
Mm,
So let's talk a little bit about Love Hard on Purpose. Toss the blueprints,
yeah,
build something honest. Super
yeah,
duper exciting. Your next book. And actually, your book that's by the time this comes out, I imagine it'll be out. Yes, it's out right now,
yes.
actually.
It's out. Yeah, you can pre-order right now. Yes.
You sure can. So let's talk a little bit about healthy relationships because what you were just sharing with about Vanessa, it's like this is what love is, right? We go through the phases, it ebbs and flows. I mean, I've been with my husband almost 30 years, right?
Wow.
You have these amazing coming back together times, and then you
Hmm.
have times when things are hard and it's hard to communicate. And so for you, what do you say are the markers of a healthy relationship? Let's just kind of start there.
God, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is without people feeling safe, you're building on sand. And I gotta say, especially women, especially now. Holy shit!
Yes.
I don't know. I can't imagine being a woman today in our world and what's happening, and
Yep.
having any trust in men. Kind of like just with the air in the room,
Yep.
with the Epstein's and all this other stuff that's happening. A lot of rocks being turned over these days, and truth being revealed. And also, I don't know how many men are really taking ownership, or they're not, minimizing. And also, that part of it in me, I wonder like what else I can do. Um, but anyway, a different topic. But yeah, safety
Yes.
is number one. And then I think in that love container, both people having a responsibility to evolve and grow.
Mm.
One of the things I'm learning is, and you just wrote a book about this,
Hmm.
wounds from a child. And I'm realizing that I am on the spectrum of love and sex addiction. And
Mm.
I used to define addiction as like, if you could have a life and you could have a career and raise
Hmm.
children, then it's not a problem. But I don't
Right.
think that's true. There's a spectrum to all this, and I feel like I have a huge mother wound from when I was a kid, 4 or 5, 6 year old growing up in America. Parents always gone, growing up in the 80s. Um, I was doing an MDMA journey just a couple years ago, and one of the
Hmm.
huge revelations I had was mom never regulated with me. Mom never held me, never said I love you. She bought me a lot of things. She bought me, Levi's and skateboards and stuff. But she was always working, and then when she was with me, she never held me. She never hugged me. She never said I was valuable or worthy. And I
Mm.
thought, holy shit, no wonder why I am searching for love, grabbing love, so thirsty for love. And I always
Yeah.
labeled it as being a hopeless romantic, but I think it's deeper than that. I think it's me trying to fill this hole that I have that I never got as a child.
I think you make a really good point, though, about addiction. So let's just stay there for one sec. I call this shadow addictions, right? The
Mm,
addictions where you can continue kind of living your life, being successful, people looking at you like great,
right, right.
but it's still, there's a cost. There's a personal cost to those behaviors. And so that's really what we're talking about. And it makes sense. So people looking to, part of the process of getting healthy, being in healthy relationships is understanding your own wounds, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
your most recent book, right? Which is
Yeah.
it's all about this. What was it for you? There it is. No, turn it. Do it. Turn it. Let's
There
both of our books. There we go. Perfect. Look
we
at
go.
it's the
I
box
love
set.
it.
The father wound for you. It's funny because I'm talking about mother wounds, but for you, dad, and how did that show up, and how does it continue to show up? Because I think that's the other misconception is, you heal something and it's gone, but no, I
Right.
think it's a lifelong process. It's always kind of there, even if it's residue.
So for me, it was the worthiness thing. I had my
Mm,
father was a very successful white collar upper management type guy, like Brooks Brothers
hmm
suit wearing, Wall Street Journal reading, martini, very very Mad Men,
Yeah, I was
martini
gonna say Mad
slamming,
Men. Right, right.
golfing on the weekend. But
Yep.
he was a college athlete who really should have had sons in my estimation, and I was his fourth
Oh,
daughter.
wow.
So I
You're the
had the whole
youngest?
wrong. Hmm?
You're the youngest sibling position?
Yes, youngest,
Mhm.
but designated oldest.
Oh,
So
interesting. Wow.
so double whammy of hero
Yeah,
child,
yeah.
youngest, and very incredibly loved, right? Incredibly loved by everyone but my
hmm
father, because
Mm,
he wasn't interested in any of us. Um, but designated oldest. So for me, I decided that I would be more successful than any stupid son my father could have had. So
mm.
that's how it manifested in me, was this
To get his
hunger.
love, to get his
Yeah, oh yeah.
attention.
Yep. And it did. It did. I was the first one to go to college, to go to grad school, become very
Yeah.
successful in my early 30s. I was running a talent
Mm,
agency. Like, there was all of this because at least I could talk to him about those things. But
hmm
what did it do to the rest of my life? And what did it do to my romantic life? And what did it do to my self esteem? All of those things suffered from this lack of my father's protection
hmm
and attention and value, feeling like my value. So, how it really landed in my adult life was that my value was absolutely directly correlated to my productivity.
Mm.
And I became a high functioning codependent, another term that I coined, where over functioning my ass off in all the relationships, not trusting. Talk about trusting. I never looked at men as people to be trusted ever. It was always people to be managed. I
Mm.
knew this is,
Yeah.
let them think you're relating, but down deep, I always was closed until I had a ton of therapy and eventually met Vic and all of that. But I do
Yeah.
think that healing, for me, healing the father wound, even understanding what it was, made me available for a relationship with someone like my husband, who
Oh, it positions you
it did.
for that
It
relationship.
did.
Yeah.
Yes, because it would need to be someone who was more high functioning than I was, which was very hard to find because I'm incredibly
Mm.
high functioning,
hmm
and more caregiving. And he was widowed. He had three teenage sons when we met, young, like 12, 14, 16.
hmm
And I couldn't believe that he was so capable, like incredibly capable. So it wasn't just that he thought I was, the moon, the sun, whatever. He just was madly in love. He also could get like a stain out of my sweater. He was putting like a water bottle in my thing. Like, do you have a
Right,
snack?
right,
He was
right.
like a mother and a father because the kid's mom died when they were 5, 3, and 1. So he was widowed with like 3 little kids, and I didn't come in until 12 years later. So anyway, long story shorter, um, my unresolved father wound impacted every part of my life and
Mm.
absolutely stood in the way of me being able to truly have deeply intimate relationships until it was healed.
So, what were your relationships like if they weren't deeply intimate? Because you were
I
being
mean,
intimate, right? What's your definition of being deeply intimate? I mean, you were having sex, you guys were going on
yep,
dates, you're right, all the
yep.
chemicals.
But I would not allow myself to be truly vulnerable. So
Mm.
I was there, I was acting vulnerable, but they didn't, like, Vic is the only person who's ever really known, like, all aspects of me. And
Yeah.
part of it is that when we met, his wife died of cancer when she was 29. Vic and I met, and within 6 months, I was diagnosed with cancer. We weren't
Wow.
even married.
Yeah.
And it was like this incredible opportunity for me. Like, first, I was like, oh, I need to get out of this relationship because I got to handle this shit and I can't, whatever. And Vic immediately went to every single doctor's appointment. Like he was just like,
Mm-hmm.
we are fighting this thing. You are beating this thing. We are.
Mm.
And can you imagine how scary it was for him and the kids,
Yeah.
right? Like they
Yeah.
lost Donna, who they loved to death. But what happened for me is that I was at a crossroads of either I can do what I always do and I can shut this guy out and I can handle this on my own. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
was protecting my family. I didn't want my mother to be worried about, like, I hated being sick and having
Yeah.
anything wrong with me that, or I could see what would it be like if I let somebody actually take care of me and add value to my
Mm.
life. And I did. And that was almost 30 years ago.
We're coming to basically the thesis of my book. At the end of the
Yay.
day, the 300 plus pages is all about this one sentence, and that is, how do we give ourselves a corrective love experience?
Hmm.
And I feel like we all want a certain type of love. We imagine it, we dream about it, but our bodies don't know until we actually are in one. You could
Yep.
listen to podcasts, read books, have all the information, but until your body experiences what a corrective love feels like, it's
Hmm.
always just going to be theory. And I gotta say, but the other thing about corrective love experiences, and this is what I'm experiencing with Vanessa. I
Yeah.
believe that we were supposed to meet, as different as we are. I'm an Aries,
Hmm.
she's a Taurus. I'm mad scientist, she's more grounded. Uh, there's a collision, and I believe that I was supposed to meet someone who would activate me, and vice versa. And then with that activation, for us to work through it, for us to learn more about ourselves, for us
Yep.
to turn the reaction to a response, and through that journey, the thing that we're building that is bigger than us now, this container growing, the individuals, but also giving ourselves what is corrective. A lot of times what is corrective isn't sexy. What is corrective
Hmm.
doesn't feel good. What is corrective? Because a lot of people think, oh, corrective, yeah, healthy. I've been
Mm.
thirsty for that. And finally, it's going to be like this fluffy cloud. No, corrective can take you to hell. Can make you feel
Yep.
everything that can be kryptonite before the relationship finds its cape.
Yeah. It's interesting though, the corrective aspect. If we're looking at, I love that this is the basically the thesis of the book, because it's so possible. You're living proof, I'm living proof. It is so
Mm-hmm.
possible to do this. But there's got to be something that we know about ourselves. And so you were already on this path before you and Vanessa got together. Were you already doing self-help work? Were you already self-reflecting or not?
Yes, but self-help for me, it's ironic because I write self-help books. It's like pedaling a wobbly bike. I'm never popping wheelies, man. I got the training wheels on. I'm eating shit. I'm going over curbs. Um,
Right.
Self-help, yeah. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to self-help, they think it in a very linear way. For me, it's wild. It's abstract. It's spiritual. It's
Hmm.
addictions. It's wounds. It's like an abstract painting for me. It's not
Yeah.
like the color by numbers.
What I love about this book is that you are basically challenging this traditional fairy tale narrative and state that, like, love is a practice, not a prize.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can
Mm-hmm.
people actually actively shift their mindset? Their mindset from waiting for like the perfect partner, because of course, especially women in particular, have been sold a
Yeah.
humongous bill of goods, obviously, to consciously building a healthy relationship every day. Like, how do we switch that up?
Well, first, I think doing some inventory. Uh, I think we have to visit the black box after any expired relationship to see how the thing
Yeah,
went down. And a lot of people
totally.
do that by pointing fingers. Oh, there's.
Yeah,
But actually, what was my contribution? And even if
yeah.
you were healthy and the other person wasn't, sure, but you did something. You picked the person, right? There's something
Mm,
about the way that you showed up where you can take some ownership. And I think in that learning, once we do some inventory, learning what we need to work on, right? So
mm.
then we're more specific, and then we follow that thread down, and then we get to conversations like the mother wound, or for me, during an MDMA experience, realize connecting some dots and realizing, oh man, because I thought my mom was perfect. I thought I never had abuse. No one touched me. No
Sure.
one abused me. No one hit me. But even a Korean mom coming to America with no money and working a lot, that had a ripple effect, and then
Yeah.
realizing how that affects you and how you show up in love because of these things, right? And
Right.
maybe it's not childhood, maybe it was high school, maybe it was sexual assault, maybe it was whatever it is. But you have a story. Everyone has a story. No child enters adulthood unscarred.
Right.
Investigating, exploring, and healing those parts of your story um, is going to set you up for something corrective, a new love
Yeah.
experience, and then your body will feel like, oh, this is what love should feel like, or and whatever that is also not just like a fantasy. It's not just rainbows and butterflies, and it's dirty socks on the floor. It's
Yep.
arguments. It's it's
It's
it's just
rupture and
it's real.
repair,
Yes,
as you were
rupture and
saying,
repair. Yeah.
It's funny, after Vic and I got together, I was so positive that, like, once I believed the other shoe wasn't going to drop, that he wasn't going to somehow fuck me over or turn it, like, be a terrible person. Like, it was so
Mm-hmm.
scary to be vulnerable to someone. Then for like almost a year, I had this incredible fear that he was going to die. Like, I kept thinking he was going to get run over by a bus. It was so interesting how the corrective experience was so powerful, and yet the fear mind is also so powerful that I swear
Mm-hmm.
I was so paranoid. I was like, I think something terrible is going to happen to him. And then, of course, eventually that fades and it becomes your new reality. But in the book itself, you're basically, what I love about the way that you write, I love that you share from a personal lens, your own
Mm-hmm.
self reflection, what you guys have been going through. So you do the professional advice. Now you include the devastating starting over experience after you guys lost your home and the Altadena fires in
Mm-hmm.
California. So, how did this profound experience of losing everything?
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is like shit that most people do not go through, and
Right.
having to rebuild, shape your understanding of resilience, commitment, and what really matters between the two of you.
It definitely tests the relationship.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's one of those things where it's unthinkable, right?
Yep,
Something happening to your child is unthinkable.
yep,
But yeah, coming home and your house is completely gone is unthinkable. But in the ashes, oh my God, so many blessings. And uh, one of the things it did for us as a couple is it forced us to explore new territory that we normally wouldn't have. Like, we would talk a lot of shit about traveling and visiting new countries and maybe moving. I know right now a lot of people are moving out of the states. I don't think we would have had the courage to actually pull the trigger. I think we would have just talked a lot of shit. But what about
yep,
Logan's friends, and what about the fires forced us to hold hands and jump out of the plane. And so in that way,
yeah.
it
Oof.
definitely tests the relationship, and then it forced us to see if we could build something from scratch, come to a new country. Um, and in a great way, it showed a lot of strengths that we have. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then I really also believe that marriages and relationships sometimes have to die for something new to be built.
Yep.
And in Altadena, I think Vanessa and I were feeling different. I think she was finally finding a home and a place that was safe and a community, and I was starting to feel stale. I was starting to. I created this identity of this long-haired, crazy Korean on a motorcycle, going
Uh-huh.
rogue as a therapist. That didn't feel honest to me anymore. I started to like. Um, n- it kind of I felt like a ghost. I felt like
Mm.
I was now being I was invisible. Like, the thing that I created, the quote unquote brand, was now a poster. It wasn't real, and it was safe to hide behind. Um,
Mm.
so it was it was actually what I needed, is to just to be like, let's burn down the house, go to a new country, learn a new language, find a new identity. I think I was looking for a new identity,
Yep.
and I didn't know it until it happened. So we had very different experiences, and we're still you know um, healing and grieving, and it's been 8 months, maybe 9 months. Every day, we're learning something new. I mean, we're in a different country, right? It's not like we just moved from LA to New York.
Right.
So adjusting. And so I like to think of our marriage as, with the fires, the marriage also burned down,
Mm-hmm.
and now we are building a new relationship. um,
Mm.
I think it's helpful for people who have been together for 8 years or 10 years or 15 years, or like even in your case, that, sometimes the old relationship, people have to die to be reborn, you know?
Yep. And we
Yeah.
have to let things, part of it is that things are going to change. Vic and I have been talking quite a bit about aging because
Mm,
I'm 62. He's 10 years older than me, so he's 72. And we're
mm,
both workaholics. I mean, we say we're not, but we kind of are. And something
yeah.
happened this year where he had slipped. We have all these backyard animals, and like we live on a farm, and it's a whole thing where he does all this work. And he slipped and he really messed up his back. And
Mm,
because he's been an artist for 70, 60 years, I don't know, a long time, hunched over. So he's, there's some physical stuff, even though he's in good shape. And he hurt his back. Now, I thought to myself, wow, we might have missed like the window to like do all of these things we said we're going to do. Like you were saying, we talk all this shit about traveling and whatever, but it'll be next year and it'll be next year. And I was like, holy crap. Like, did we wait too long? And as he healed and got better,
mm,
I immediately booked a trip to Paris that I knew I had bought non refundable tickets. I had a free apartment to stay in. And I was like, listen, we're going to Paris for your birthday. And there was
mm.
something about this having the honest conversation about, babe, like, we're not going to fucking live forever. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you're 72. And even though he's in great, and we walked 10 or 11 miles a day in Paris. I mean, he's in great shape, but that's not the
Mm,
point. The point is, we have a finite amount of time
yeah.
on this planet. And I think that what you're saying, whether you have an event like the fires or whether you just have a health scare, these are things that can shake us up to be like, hey, 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 there's no dress rehearsal. Like, we are live right now. This is what's
Mm,
happening,
mm.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, if anything, the fire has taught me that how short life is and how something can happen that you would never even expect. I grew up in LA, so earthquakes, fires, like it's like, yeah, whatever, nothing's gonna come home,
Right.
until it
Yep.
does. And so now, holy shit, time. I mean, you can't buy time, and every day that you're alive, to be present and to cherish it. What a great reminder, for me, definitely. And also when
So
it comes
good.
to love, your partner doesn't have to be with you; they're choosing to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think one of the hardest things to do, especially when you've been with someone for a long time, is to fall into routine and no longer see the value, no longer see, things in their personality, the little things they do, the way they move. Like, I think, our eyes, like the lenses get so kind of foggy throughout the years because life happens, because we're paying taxes and, building businesses and stuff.
Yep.
What we saw when we first dated that person, you know, the
Yep.
curiosity we had, I think over time that stuff can start to take a back seat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my biggest fears is that we become roommates, and
Yep.
I don't want that to ever happen. And in order for that to not happen, you have to start to see, the 360 of your partner, and also why you guys fell in love in the first place. And
Yeah.
also, you got to discover new things about your partner that weren't there
Yep.
before, that is fresh and new.
Yes. Yes. It's funny. Esther Perel, I did something with her in Costa Rica, actually, a year
Mm,
ago. And it was like
yeah.
it was a whole week on erotic
Mm.
intelligence. And
Oh.
one of the most powerful things that I took away was about how exactly what you're saying, John, that creating new experiences, right? How do we enliven long term relationships? Novelty, do something
Mm-hmm.
different. So you guys
Mm-hmm.
took that to the extreme because of the situation that you were in
We were
the
forced to.
novelty of, oh my God, moving to another country that doesn't
Yeah.
speak the same language.
Yeah.
And it was great. When I was in Costa, I was actually able to see Vanessa. We met up at a hotel because I was
Oh, I
at I was at a
forgot.
retreat down there.
You
Yes,
were 20 minutes away. Yeah, yeah,
I
Altadena.
know, it was so
Right.
great. And I told her we're gonna totally, because she's like, no, I mean it. You guys come back. I'm like, I'm bringing Vic. We are definitely coming back to your
Mm,
house. So just know
mm.
that I will be visiting you. I'm very excited. I have two questions for you though about the
Yes,
book. So
yes.
one, because I get a lot of questions online and in my courses from people who constantly find themselves in the anxious avoidant trap of
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah.
They're with people who are emotionally unavailable, they are chasing. So, what do you say? Because I know you talk about this in the book. What is the very first step that they can take to identify and sort of rewrite some of this toxic patterning?
Mm. The big twist in the book is just to give up on love. It's all just not worth it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's heavy lifting. Love is heavy lifting, but definitely,
Yes.
definitely, I think worth it. I got to say real quick. I believe this is a wild theory. I believe that that this thing that we're building with this other person is greater than its parts, and if we look at it as I'm going to give everything to this greater thing, right? So not
Mhm.
just my money, but like my
Mhm.
soul, my I'm not saying losing yourself. I'm not saying abandoning yourself, but if you give everything to this thing that is greater than you,
Yep.
the thing will give back. And what it may give back is sovereignty, it may give back freedom, it may give back, like all these things that you don't even know. But if you trust, I mean, in a way, it's like almost like love is spiritual in that way that
Yeah.
you are surrendering to it, you are giving everything, and then what it will do is it will kind of heal you. We're all swimming towards being securely attached, and most of us, because of our attachment wounds from early on, I'm more anxious. Vanessa swings more toward avoidant, and also there's a spectrum, right? It's not like just black and white.
Right.
Um, I believe that if we're able to build a safe space, a healthy container, by giving to this thing that is greater, then naturally, through the journey, we will start swimming more toward secure. And I don't think it's something like,
Mm.
a big knock on your door. I think it's gradual. I think you will slowly kind of realize, oh, I used to react when I didn't hear from her, within 2 seconds of texting, but I just realized actually I didn't, or maybe it's been 5 seconds and I'm okay. And I think it's through very kind of subtle daily life noting that we realize, oh, we're becoming more secure. We're
Yep.
becoming more secure because we believe in this thing that is greater than ourselves, and we're not depending on our identity, our worth. We're trying to because the container is safe in promoting individuals, we are
Right.
actually learning to build a better relationship with ourselves, if that makes sense. And by
Yeah,
doing
it
so,
does.
we are becoming more securely attached over time.
Yes. But I love the idea of looking for the evidence of, like you said, you could take 5 seconds and not worry about it, and then 7 seconds, and then 10 seconds, and continue. I'll always say to my therapy clients, let's look for evidence of
Hmm.
the attachment that you have, or like evidence of that it's okay if the person doesn't get back to you within 20 minutes, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's not like make the worst case scenario out of that. But again, these are muscles that you're walking people to with through reps in the book
Yes.
for people
Yes.
to actually figure out in their own lives, how to do it.
Yeah.
One of the concepts in the book that I think is really will be really helpful for people is the miracle isn't in the feeling, but that it's in the healing. So,
Mm-hmm.
in the corrective love experience that you talk about, this really, you're basically, we talked about this up front, but this is basically a way of not repeating these childhood wounds in your adult relationships by bringing
Yeah.
it into your awareness. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, I think part of giving yourself a corrective experience is um, contributing to the space that is going to convince your body that this is new and different. And I think before it gets corrective, I think there's going to be resistance. For
Hmm.
example, if you've only had toxic, crazy, chaotic, what I call telemundo relationships, where there has to be, or maybe these days Korean drama, it has to be dramatic, and then you
Yep.
find something that is calm. Your body's going to react to that. Body's going to maybe define that as boring or flat or no chemistry,
Yep.
and so you do have to rewire your body by sitting in it, by passing the breakers till you get to calm. And I think that takes time, like you said, lots of reps, where your body then is um, feeling like, oh, this is the new homeostasis. And then I think you know that you're changing and evolving when what used to excite you and attract you now repulses you. Now your radar gets sharper.
Yep.
And also, if you're not loving someone, you could still do this. You could still give yourself a corrective experience through friendships, through other type of relationships, not just, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm single and that means that what? I can't practice this until I find a partner. It's like, no, you could practice it now. Practice it because
Right.
friends activate us. Because even with friendships, we have, different attachment style dances, right? So
Yep.
in any relationship, you could start to kind of give yourself something corrective by choosing
Indeed.
people who are healthy, by also being really honest with yourself and giving yourself challenges and relationships that are going to hold up mirrors and leading into it instead of pulling a Korean exit and leaving like I used to do.
That's a Korean exit. That's an Irish exit. That's
Irish,
like
yeah, Korean,
every
any
culture has
exit.
the exit.
Right,
Well, I'm
right.
super pumped for the world to have this book, John. I'm so glad that you wrote it. You guys, it's called Love Hard on Purpose. Toss the blueprint, build something honest. It is available right now everywhere that fine books are sold. Tell people where they can find you.
In Costa Rica, usually no underwear, flip flops. No, at the Angry Therapist, across the board. And Terry, also, thank you so much for always supporting my shit, and I will always support yours in any way that I can. You're OG to me, and I feel kind of
Mhm.
like almost like we went to high school together because we started so long ago.
We
And I
sure
will
did.
always love it when I see your face on my feed. Speaking of being a workaholic, how I thought I created a ton of content, and then I feel like you're just nonstop. How do you keep all this going? Do you not get
I don't
tired?
know. Oh, I'm tired. Trust me. I'm
Yeah,
62, babe. I'm
I'm tired too.
tired. I'm tired. No, I do, but this is for me that this book is the last that I owe anybody legally. So I'm
Okay,
very excited about Father Wound. I'm very excited to do this
okay,
launch, which is starting. So it'll be, it doesn't drop until October 27th. So I'm going to be out and about and doing events in LA and New York and all the places. So
nice.
like I'm excited, but I didn't know, John. I was a fucking book virgin. I was an author virgin. What did I know? I didn't know I
Yeah,
shouldn't write 4 books in 5 years. Like that was a lot of books in a short period of time if you include the
sure.
workbook. Um, and I have no regrets. It's just like going to grad school. Well, I was running a talent agency. I mean, I don't know how I
Yeah,
did it, but I'm glad I did it and that it's done.
you're a
But
hustler.
this book, I think, is it's this is what it's all been sort of leading to
Yeah.
is this book, this moment in time. So I'm super excited about it.
Also, I gotta say, every book is therapeutic, meaning we get something, we get therapy from
Oh,
writing the book, from actually giving birth to the
absolutely.
books, because it takes us somewhere. Pick up both. Pick up Father Wound and Love Hard. It's they go together hand in hand.
Yeah, they do. All right. It was
All
so
right.
good seeing you, babe. I love you. I'm
Thank you.
sending you so much love.
Be
Bye.
well. Talk to you soon.